Hello, viewers and listeners, and welcome to another wonderful episode of the Afro Gamer podcast. We discuss gaming and esports on the African region, and today we'll be discussing Nodwin gaming and African esports. I do have two wonderful gentlemen with us, and I would allow them to introduce themselves.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm going to go ahead. My name is Merlin. I'm the CEO of Nodwin Game International. Nodwin Game International is, by virtue of its name, is the international arm of Nodwin Gaming. Nodwin Gaming is originally an Indian esports company, and with the last quarter of last year, we started branching out more internationally, so we decided to start a dedicated subsidiary for it, which is the company I run.
Okay, and Anthony?
Hi, yeah, my name's Anthony now. I am the sales head for Africa, and like Merlin as well, also press all the other buttons, not just sales. Been working in esports in South Africa for quite some time. And this is my first tenure at an international esports company doing African esports, which is pretty awesome.
Okay, thank you guys for joining us. I was going to, go straight at it as what is Nodwin Gaming, but Merlin already gave us a nutshell gave us all the intro with that. But let me ask Merlin, why the interest in the esports space in Africa?
So I think it's twofold. It's at least two different reasons for the interests. There's one a little bit of a personal one, which before my esports life, I used to live in South Africa for a year. I studied engineering in Germany, so I did an internship and then at an engineering company in Durban in my past life. So, and I kind of got emotionally attached to the country, the people, the whole spirit. So when I started working at ESL in early 2010, I contacted them first in 2009. Over the years, I never really understood why there isn't a bigger African presence in the global esports scene. Obviously, at ESL, we did global events, tier one, basically the best of the best when it comes to esports players and teams attended the event, and there wasn't really an African presence there. So when I started talking to our founder and CEO, Nodwin, Akshat, who also has a very deep passion similar to mine for like esports and grassroots stuff and building up scenes, he had the similar feeling, like, why is Africa not reflected on a bigger scale in the like tier one esports scene or noticed in general in the esports scene? And then Nodwin being an originally an Indian company, they had similar challenges. Very young country, developing, still in like developing, not on the like European or American level, North American level when it comes to like certain infrastructure, certain technologies, certain frameworks, but very like young, tech interested, mobile, and the development overall is very much in favor of those countries and territories, right? Like if you currently have a young, if you have a young demographic, the future is ahead of you. Like Europe's demographic is fairly old. Like those people are harder to convince that esports and gaming are viable, like entertainment slash like sports property. Those, like, if you live in a country that's the majority below 30, like people understand what gaming is. They understand by an extent what esports is. While they might not be a fan or gamer themselves to a big degree, everybody nowadays in the age demographic like 15 to 25. Like when I was, so I'm in my 30s now. When I was young, like I had friends that were gamers and had PCs or consoles, but I have a lot of friends from the that had no real connection to gaming, because if you to be a gamer back then, you needed to have a PC, you need to have a console, you need to understand like that space, you needed to be directly involved. Nowadays everybody has a smartphone, and smartphone by an extent, most of them, like if you don't have the like a very low entry phone, like a budget phone nowadays is perfectly fine on running like mobile titles like PUBG Mobile, Call of Duty Mobile, Free Fire, all those titles you can run on a phone. So everybody has an entry level into gaming. So long story short, we decided India, it worked very well for us. Like we grew very rapidly. Back on the growth of the India, we managed to be like among the top 5 esports company on a global level. Not just obviously in Southeast Asia, we by far the biggest, but also on a global scale, we managed to make a dent. And we feel like we are uniquely positioned to understand the demographics, since we see quite a few similarities between the Indian development we had over the last 5 years and what we feel like Africa is gonna do and how Africa is going to develop. Obviously, Africa being a lot of different nations, so every country or even like regions in the countries are different. But as a whole, if you want to generalize, there's a lot of similarities, and we feel like we're uniquely positioned to understand those. And obviously, personally, as a like company, profit from them, but also give something back, right? It's not, we don't want to come in and make a lot of money and like just profit from it, because right now the scene, quite frankly, isn't super worth it to be in the market. That's why a lot of players, like we're not the first company to try esports in Africa, right? South Africa has companies like the Metal States and the of the world that have tried and done a lot for the scene, but on a very local focused level. Like, so our approach is we want to build something for the whole of Africa, and we want to help grow the whole scene. We don't want to take like what's there already and own that, because that's first of all, that's against our nature. We are very much an inclusive company. We want to work as many parties as possible. Like if you feel like you are working on building up esports and are in general good for the space and the scene, be happy to work with you. We also, we want to grow the whole scene, not just in one country, but on the whole continent, to make esports better, to make it viable for like teams, players, all parties involved. And by extent, obviously, if you own 99% of a very small pie, in the end you own just a very small pie. If you have a massive pie, it's fine if you only own or are responsible or whatever you want to call it for like 10-15% or whatever. It's better for us and it's better for the scene. So that's our thought process behind it. I went on quite a rant, I'm sorry.
That's fine, thank you, Merlin.
That was a good one.
It was a good one. Anthony, Merlin mentioned his thought process as to why there was not much esports activities on the continent, or why it's a question many stakeholders in the ecosystem keep asking. Why does Africa getting excluded? Why does international tournaments kind of overlook the continent? You've been in the ecosystem for 10 years or more. How would you rate esports presently in Africa?
That's not a difficult question, because I think it's definitely a lot better than it was like even 5 years ago, even less actually. I think the general collective consciousness of all the people, and I'll say it's not a massive amount of people on the internet talking about the esports industry in Africa. I mean, there's quite a few people, but there's not hundreds or thousands, if you know what I mean. So I think it's, in that sense, it's definitely better. There's a lot more people than there used to be. There's a lot more kids getting involved, and mobile generation being a huge part of that is are really important. I think the illusion, maybe for some people outside of Africa and even inside Africa to some extent, is that South Africa is the market almost entirely, where it has been, because we kind of make a lot of noise, but we're also kind of insular and very anglicized. So, and I think that Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, lots of people have been playing games for a long time. And there's some communities of like COD 4 that are still around, in Kenya and other places, that are still playing COD 4 since the first day that it came out up until this point. They have a sustained little community unto itself. So I think it's becoming less fragmented as well. That's one of the things that have been a problem over the last 5 years or so, is that we seem to enjoy being in our own little pockets inside of our countries. And I think that the mobile generation is breaking those boundaries pretty quickly with PUBG Mobile and other games like that, which definitely bodes well for the next 5 years in terms of young gamers that are going to get exposed to gaming in general, not just esports, because I think the real thing that we need to be pushing is that we need to get kids enjoying playing games, and then teach kids that you can have a competitive element to that in a casual sense, just like friendly competition without any money involved, and then teach them that if you're good at that and you want to do that as a career, there is a path for you there too. And that path would branch out into many different paths, but we need to show them the beginning first, properly.
Okay, so let me extend the question for you. How would you score esports presently over 10? The scorecard, if you had to give Africa a scorecard. I know it's putting you on the spot, but I would like to have your scorecard.
Okay, let me do this then. Let me do this for you. So 10 years ago being up until now being the time frame for that 1 to 10 rating, I would give us now a solid and upwardly trending 6.
Okay, fair enough.
That sounds kind of negative in a sense, but I think in fairness, I mean, why I said upwardly trending is because it's definitely improving. And I think like we were very recently a 2 and a 3, but we went from a 2 and a 3 to a 6 pretty fast. And I think that's going to go on the way to a 10, like Merlin said, probably within the next 5 years, judging by our experiences elsewhere.
Okay, wonderful. Let me pose the same question to Merlin. With your experience in Europe and in India and Asia, and what you've seen in Africa, what was your scorecard for the region?
I mean, you kind of hinted at it. It's a difficult question, right? It always comes from your specific viewpoint on how if you want to, like, what factors you value the most. Like, is it player base? Is it like just gaming penetration of the market? Is it like how interested are people in watching local esports and those ones? So I would maybe rate it a little bit lower than Anthony, around a 5 maybe, just because my viewpoint, obviously, like my vision for where we want to be is really similar to what I've been doing for the better part of the last decade on a global level, right? I really want events like an IEM Chicago or an ESL1 Cologne. Like, why can't those events happen in Cape Town or in Laos, or like in Berlin, Mauritius? Like, basically those things. Like, Africa there's no reason why Africa couldn't be a host to those types of events in the next 2-3 years, maybe even sooner, because the interest, like, if we're talking, we are fortunate at Nodwin that we have good relationships with pretty much all big publishers that are, well, all publishers that are relevant for esports. So when we're talking to those people, like, we see by like, not directly, but we know kind of how the interest is in certain titles and games in certain territories, regions, countries. So we know the players are there, right? So at least on a local level. Then our challenge is to reach those players, make them aware, hey, there's more than just ladder competing with friends. even if you predominantly console FIFA player and you sit in front of your console with your friends normally, you could think about if you're the best in like of your friends group, you will always probably be the best player in your friends group, but you never really know how good you like rank up beyond like that level unless you try. That's a predominantly problem in esports, right? So to reach level where you can compete on a global level, you need to challenge teams and players on a global level. That's historically, for example, used to be like let's pick Counter-Strike as a title. It's not like it's a very relevant esports. Obviously, currently has some issues and a lot of turmoil going on, but historically, it's one of the longest running successful esports titles. So Counter-Strike used to be a very European-focused title, as in like we had North American teams and they were good, but they never for the longest time until Cloud9 came and busted that ceiling. They never could compete with European teams because predominantly they played in their own like region. They played against other North American teams, and if you were the best North American team, you kind of grew a little bit, but you never grew beyond that region's skill level. So to really make sure that they broke that skill ceiling, they needed to start playing against European teams and challenge them on a regular basis. And after a couple of years of doing that, they managed to, as at least something like, I mean, if you look at Liquid last year, they were far and beyond, like was it last year? I mean, time flies in COVID times, but they used to be for 6 months straight, they were almost unbeatable. Like it was a joy to watch them. That young team, obviously, right now they are at the same spot. Like online CS is weird, but overall, like they got better because they played, and it doesn't have to be Europe, but they're like basically in any title as a single player. If it's a single player title or a multiplayer title, you need to compete against the best to become the best. You can't just try to play in your region all the time, then play at one-off event on an international scale, because more likely than not, you will get owned, and then you don't really take a lot of it. You don't represent your scene very well. If you so you want to catch the emotion. Like it's nice to see like local heroes on international events, but you also want to see your local heroes kind of be able to compete to a certain degree, right? You don't need to have them win, but if they get destroyed, again, I take Counter-Strike level 16-0 all the time, your local fans will probably not enjoy that very much, and it's not a good showing, right? So that's what we need to work on. Like we need to increase the viability of competing on a local level for teams and players, so they can stick around and make that at least part of that, like make their time investment worthwhile, at least to some degree. Then we need to build that local scene up to be able to compete regionally, and that region needs to be then continent-wide. So luckily there's companies like Angola Cable and so on working on improving the back end, the internet infrastructure, because it's just like then Starlink is something that like Elon Musk is doing. That has a lot of promises when it comes to there's certain technical limitations, right? So if you want to compete and you are really good, the higher the ping is and certain technical limitations, then it will hamstring you in you can't really play to your full potential. But with better the technology behind it gets, then it's not really a problem anymore. So guys from Egypt can play against guys from South Africa without technical problems. So then it comes down to how good you are. And if the continent manages to build up their own scene or finding the right titles, not all the titles, South Africa is very Counter-Strike is very prominent in South Africa, but beyond that, to be honest, Counter-Strike doesn't have the biggest impact on the continent right now. There's the one-off other country, but that's about it for Call of Duty Mobile and PUBG Mobile. There's mobile titles. way better penetration. So then it's like finding the right title to be a regionally present or continental present and have like your own scene. And with every new development title, like there's like the clock is kind of reset, right? Then if Africa is at the forefront of those titles and has the right system in place and the proper technologies to compete, they can be among the best in like a year's time, like no question, or even sooner. If you when a new title comes around, and it's like Valorant, really great example. Right now, if you start out building a really good Valorant team and are able to compete, like there's certainly the funds are there. The publisher is heavily supporting it. Like Riot is really serious about the title. They want to like their competitiveness, their competitive integrity, the networking. Like they're doing a lot for it to make it a success. So if you right now focusing on that, and that's like North America already almost abandoned like Counter-Strike for the best part or like the biggest part, and most of those TOs, not TOs, most of those organizations that have been strongly present in Counter-Strike for the last couple of years are now switching over to Valorant because they see it as the potential future title. There's also the argument that not a lot of, but some just doing it for the potential financial benefits. But right now, basically, long story short, if you see new games, focus on them, and you can be relevant on a global level probably sooner than you could be in a title like Counter-Strike or Dota or those traditional esports titles that have been around for a long time. Because at those titles, you probably always will compete against teams and organizations that have half a decade or more of experience that you will have a rough time catching up to.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Merlin. Anthony, Nodwin Gaming's first footprint is in South Africa. So what are the plans to expand to, the other parts of the continent?
So I think we've already we're quite well on our way on that journey already. We started off in South Africa, and just after a few short months, it was COVID time. And being lucky enough to have conversations with people, we realized that we were going to be in for quite some time, and that everything was going to be online, and more digital globalization would ensue, which meant that we made the call to start expanding out into, or offering our tournaments out to other African countries, which we've been doing for probably since April, May, I think, possibly. So at this time, while it's not possible to hold physical events in a very safe manner anywhere in Africa or around Africa, we are continuing our online push, but the live events will come soon, I'm sure. And you'll get more of a sense of our African expansion as we do things that we hope for in the future. But our general plans are to hit a couple key regions, and do some good online tournaments and encourage some players to come play in our events. Start potentially doing some of our broadcasts in other African languages with people that people from those countries will recognize as well. And then in the future, start working with people on the ground in Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Ivory Coast, and others to do some on-the-ground events in the future. I'm just hoping that that's sooner rather than later with the COVID situation, but that's always been our plan, I think, even from day one.
Okay, good. Hopefully COVID, we figure out COVID as soon as possible, because it is, it's a blessing and a cost to esports. So
it's a unique challenge, definitely. Yeah. I mean, like as Anthony already hinted at, like the start in South Africa was mostly due to our fairly it's funny to speak of a traditional approach in the sense of esports, because esports is in my horizons, a 20 year, well, I guess globally it's 20 years old kind of maybe you can argue a little bit more, a little less, but so tradition in esports doesn't really go that back that long. But traditionally, our approach was we're going to do online events mixed in with like offline finals or semi-final. So that's what historically works well, right? You want to show parties, and that's another challenge we will have to overcome. Like obviously on a global level, we have a lot of partners and sponsors that understand what esports is all about, why there is value in sponsoring and supporting esports. But we don't just want to reach the traditional or international partners. We also want to build local ties. So for that, offline events are uniquely beneficial in the sense that you can see and transport the joy and emotion that come with like playing esports title and watching esports title. You can invite partners and sponsors or potential future sponsors to those events and show them, hey, those are the teams playing on stage. See how like excited, how much emotion they have by winning or even losing, and then the fans in front of the stages, cheering them on, like enjoying their time, checking out products, buying stuff, getting informed, and so on. That's so that was part of our plan at the end of last year. So then we did our research and we're like, yeah, South Africa is probably the most developed when it comes to esports. So they should, in theory, understand our approach, our idea the best. So we said, we kind of focused on South Africa. And there's also the like aspect that as part of ESL, there's a couple of key people that are also now part of Nodwin that work with ESL. There in years back. Obviously, that project with Quese is didn't go the best. Like they kind of shit the bed a little bit. But overall, the idea was, hey, this should be a good springboard to build something with a traditional approach. And then in a year's time, if that is well up and running under the quote unquote traditional like roadmap, then we can pick the next couple of countries and rinse and repeat with keeping in mind, obviously, no plan always works like the same 100%. You will always have to adjust and adapt, but that was like the mindset. So we picked like Johannesburg as the hub and opened an office there. Obviously, Anthony came on board, and then Nate, who's also a key part of the African operations. Burning Red, who should be a familiar face to some CS fans, at least. So they were in South Africa. We decided South Africa is the best place to start out and then build something up from there. Then the pandemic steamrolled the planet and offline events were off the table. Like literally, there's no possible way on doing safe offline events anywhere in the world. It's like Anthony said, Africa, it's not like Germany is going into a hard lockdown, like most of Europe is shut down, obviously to different degrees, but it would be crazy to do a big offline event, like unless like it's almost impossible to control like this, like you how like the it makes no financial sense. It's insanely expensive, and even if you like, you can't control everybody to 100%. So you like some people, some guy will like dodge like the bubble environment and decide to go out drinking one night. And even if you like if you test them every day, like it takes 3 to 4 days until like a test, and then as soon as the bubble appears, like it spreads all around, and then you the tournament organizer or you the event that had got like the majority of the teams and talent sick, and it's just not feasible anyway. Period. Until like there's until we have vaccinations and they are the majority of people are no longer risk themselves or risk for others. There's no way of doing offline events. With that in mind, and we knowing that it's likely by if you think back then, like scientists said, it's going to take at least a year, maybe longer, to get that vaccine. Luckily, it looks like we are almost there now. Certain countries already distributing vaccines, but knowing that in March it will be at least a year, we kind of adopted, like, if we can't do offline events anyway, it's not really a necessity to be in one, like, start out with one specific territory, right? Online, the beauty of online is it's digital, and as long as the technical infrastructure is there, you can do cover the whole continent. You can cover the whole world. Like, fans can watch, players can play, as long as you have a product that's interesting. In theory, players should try to play, and fans should come and watch. So that accelerated our African expansion, pretty much from let's do it next year to why not do it right now and try to get the message out, try to reach players that are at home that either want to play or want to watch the game they enjoy playing be played to the most advanced degree. And that's where we are currently at, right? We are kind of in a hybrid situation, because the original idea for Incosi and Mzansi, which are our like first division and second division kind of tournament leagues, they were focused on like the South African market. So there's titles there that are uniquely positioned to work in that space, and not so much content-wide, but that's always under assessment, and we can always adjust that. And considering how we started out, it's working pretty well, and it's improving. And now it's about getting the message out across the continent, reaching players, reaching viewers, and also by a bigger extent reaching sponsors, and then showing them what product and like what value we have built, the audience we can reach, and why it's worthwhile, even if you like a mobile operator in just one of the territories we cover, come on board and invest into esports, because quite frankly, it's a better value than pretty much all other traditional advertisement spaces like TV, newspapers, print, in general. Like, esports is reaching the most important demographic. It's certain technology, like certain if you sell a certain product like technology, it's probably also the biggest multiplier. So if you reach our audience, you're probably also reaching that guy that is in his friend group or social group, the person that other people come to get informed on what the best mobile phone is to buy right now, what the best graphics card is to buy, what camera I should buy, and so on. So overall, yeah, we are reaching and trying to reach the whole continent already, and we are adopting and adjusting our original plans with every day. And yeah, I mean, we are already as continent-wide as possible, and beyond technical limitations and the message being sent out to the whole continent, like, that's probably our biggest challenge right now, making sure we reach all, or not really, we'll never reach all, but as many people as possible, to make them aware that, Incosi and Mzansi are not a South African property, and you can play even if you're in Kenya, Angola, Nigeria, Mauritius, Ivory Coast, like Congo, whatever. Like, if you have a phone and you like, or a PC or a console, and you like to play those titles that we currently have in the league, you can play every week. Like, Incosi is open. All you need to have is internet, gaming device, and the will to compete.
Wonderful. That is very, very detailed. Thank you for that, Merlin. As we
I
round up,
try to keep it short enough.
All right. As we round off, Anthony, how can stakeholders in Africa, be it Mauritius, Senegal, how can they connect with Nodwin Gaming or, take part if they want to collaborate?
I think actually the best ways to get hold of us, myself, Merlin, and Nate, are the three regional product owners, if you will. I'm currently speaking to a number of people from around Africa on various projects, big and small. I think what the main thing we're trying to do over the short term now is trying to meet as many people as possible and try and investigate and with each other and chat and see if there's some sort of a value to be derived. Even if you're a small TO with just a couple of people playing in your events, all the way up to larger tournament organizers, we're excited to partner with people. We've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of resources to dispense that we can use with partners. We've got a lot of time to give them to help people out. People need to get in touch.
Okay, thank you for that, Anthony. So to all our viewers and listeners, you've heard it. Anthony has given you, the recipe to connect with them. So that is all we have for this episode. Merlin and Anthony, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with us. And, we're hopeful that 2021 looks better for African esports and we can, probably have you guys back to discuss with us. So to everyone, thank you for joining us and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.